Hello and welcome into another episode of the FanTC Betting Pod. Might have to change the name. Not sure. We'll workshop it,
I meant to bring that up to you prior to hitting that record button. We do need to probably come up with a smoother name with the transition to the focus on betting.
Yeah. We'll workshop it for now. You'll still find us at FanTC Football, but in any case, we are recording here on a Monday night, just after the Packers lose to the Raiders on Monday Night Football in a very, very sluggish game overall. Kody, how are we feeling? How was Week 5 for you, both from a betting standpoint and just an overall, happiness standpoint, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. The betting standpoint went good. Went 2-1 on the best bets. Unfortunately, I cannot hit an under anytime that I recommended on the podcast. I love betting unders on any primetime game. If you took it on Monday, that was another hit for a primetime under. But anytime I recommend it on the podcast, it does not go well for me. From a fantasy football perspective, had a wonderful week in every single league except for the one that you and I are in which my team lost by about 80 something points, putting up a nice 43 points total, I think, on the week. So that one was a little bit rough, but the rest of it went pretty good. Survived the guillotine league, survived the survivor pool. So not too bad. Overall happiness is going pretty well right now. How was your weekend?
It was pretty solid, 2-1 as well on the best bets. Went 3-2 across my 5 leagues. I believe that is my third straight 3-2 week. So we are continuing to end up somewhat positive. That's really all you can ask for when you're in 5 leagues. You're not going to win them all every week with all the different matchups. But yeah, I just want to I want to go back to your 50-point week, not to rub it in, but the injury luck that you had was probably some of the worst I've seen from a single week of fantasy. We had a Anthony Richardson starting quarterback. For those of you who played him, he left very early. Justin Jefferson, he left not so early, but still a hamstring injury to his best player. Zay Jones left early, did catch a touchdown before he left, but only played a half. And then Khalil Herbert started out amazing, looked really good, 10 for 76, also left with a high ankle sprain. So, sometimes you make some bad lineup decisions. Sometimes your guys don't play well, and sometimes you just get the raw end of the stick. So just know it happens to the best
Got
of
shafted,
us guys.
for sure.
Big time shafted, Kody. Yeah, your injury luck this year has been something else in that league for sure.
I've had extremely lucky injury luck the past 2 seasons in that league, and it is just pouring on right now with all of it. But, we got hopefully Saquon, Austin Eckler both coming back next week. We'll have Keenan Allen to help with the Justin Jefferson injury. Chris Godwin, hopefully going to be a fine wide receiver 2 option. We'll see, but yeah, the injuries just keep on coming. And I have I have Justin Fields in 3 leagues, and I was like, you know what? I don't want all my emotions to ride on how Justin Fields does on Thursday Night Football, because if he pulls a week 1, 2, or 3, I'm kind of feeling iffy about the rest of the weekend. So I benched him in 1 league, started him in 2. In the 1 league I benched him for Anthony Richardson. So I luckily overcame in 1, but that was because of just a very, very lucky bad. George Kittle 3 touchdowns on Sunday Night Football. But yeah, I was sitting there looking at 46 on my bench from Justin Fields and a nice 4 points put up by Anthony Richardson. So thought I had sanked my week, but luckily snuck one out there.
Yeah, process is probably sound there on the Anthony Richardson play, but what are you going to do? Hopefully you'll have Fields moving forward. The next 3 weeks look pretty damn good for him in fantasy, if I say so myself. You want to go ahead and hit the drop? We'll get into some NFL news and notes.
Have you heard the news?
Time for Nick's news and notes from around the NFL.
So with our shift from a fantasy focus to more of a betting focus, I'm going to kind of skew these news and notes to that direction as well. We're going to be looking at more NFL, relevant notes. For example, James Conner has an injury that may keep him out for a week or 2. That didn't make its way onto my segment here. I guess it did since I'm mentioning it right now. But in a general sense, those are the types of injuries that I will be leaving off. We're going to go with injuries that are very relevant to NFL teams that are likely to impact either their line movement week to week or just their overall outlook as a team moving forward. Anthony Richardson, he had an AC joint injury, as we mentioned. His early expectation is 4 to 6 weeks. It's still early. It's Monday night after the game, so we don't know for sure, but he is definitely going to be out at least a week. Expectation is that he gets put on IR, so we are going to see Gardner Minshew starting for the Indianapolis Colts for a little bit here. Jonathan Taylor also signed a contract extension. We haven't mentioned that on the pod yet, right before the game started. And of course, Zach Moss went off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns because the NFL makes a ton of sense. Matt Milano, he could miss the rest of the season with a leg fracture. This is actually a pretty big deal. He's a linebacker for the Bills, a really, really good one. They just lost their best cover corner in Tre'Davious White the week before to a torn Achilles. So they are feeling it on the defensive side. I wouldn't normally be concerned about a blip on the radar loss to the Jaguars in London in the middle of the year in week 5 for the Bills. But because of these defensive injuries, it could be a bit of a problem. They did just sign Josh Norman today. Screams a bit of desperation pulling him out of retirement to bring him into your secondary. So that is something to watch with the Bills moving forward. Their defense might not be as formidable as it was earlier in the year. Justin Jefferson also, as I mentioned earlier, he injured his hamstring. Definitely fantasy relevant, but also very relevant to the betting lines as well. There's no update yet. I would expect him to miss at least a week, maybe more, with this 1-4 Vikings team not maybe being in the playoff conversation right now. I would not expect them to rush him back. He also did not sign that contract extension yet that we all expected, so I would not expect him to rush back, as he shouldn't, without having that contract and without his team really being in a spot to compete right now. So we will mention this later, actually, so I'll just save that conversation for later on when we do the early look at next week's lines. This one actually it was just such a sad story, so I had to include it. Detroit defensive back Emmanuel Moseley, he tore his right ACL in his first game back from his left ACL tear last year, signed a 1-year deal with the Lions after playing his first 5 years with the Niners. Really, really sucks. Yeah, he's a great player when he's on the field, and looked like he was finally healthy. And then obviously the opposite knee goes, just a really, really tough situation there. There was also an offensive lineman for the Panthers that had a really scary looking neck injury, left on the cart and went to the hospital, but he's actually all right. He ended up going home with the team. I believe his last name was Zavala. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, but anyway, so he's all right, but Moseley, sad to hear, he will be out for the year again. Daniel Jones suffered a neck injury and left the game. His status is to be determined, being that it's a neck injury and being that he suffered a very similar injury at the end of 2021. I would expect them to be very cautious with him, similar to the Viking situation. Giants are not necessarily a competing team right now. They're going on the road to Buffalo next week. Even with the defensive injuries, that is going to be a pass rush that could probably get after Daniel Jones. You're probably going to see Tyrod Taylor in that game and maybe another after that. I don't know if that's even going to impact the line as that much. This team is just that bad right now. Kody, do you have anything to add to the NFL news and notes, or do you want to move on to our recap?
My only additional comment is I can't believe the Bills can't find anybody better than Josh Norman to bring in to play cornerback. Like, there's no 24, 25-year-old like practice squad guy out there that can perform better than Josh Norman coming back out of retirement. So, yeah, I believe the 49ers did the same thing either last year or 2 years ago, got him out of early retirement to suit up for them. So maybe he just likes to pick and choose his teams. Maybe that's just the thing that we're missing here.
He did have a cup of coffee with the Bills towards the end of his career. I don't know how long he was actually there, but there is a relationship there at the very least. But yeah, it definitely screams desperation for that team right now. So hopefully they can, cut off the injury bug that they have going on right now. These last 2 weeks, 2 injuries to 2 of their best 3 or 4 defensive players. Not a good situation there in Buffalo right now. That is probably a good transition point to our recap here. We're going to go one each, and we had 3 best bets last week. So I will start off. We'll get the bad out of the way first. Jacksonville at Buffalo. I took Buffalo -5.5. This is a bit of a fool's bet at the end of the day. It looks like Bills just put up a stinker in this one. Kody brought up the point on our best bets pod that he was a little nervous that Buffalo would have a little malaise traveling to London when Jacksonville was able to stay there all week after playing their previous game in London as well, and he ended up being right on the money here. It was a 25-20 win for Jacksonville, but honestly, it was not even that close of a game. Jacksonville scored a late touchdown to go up by 12. Buffalo put up another touchdown in what was basically garbage time with about 2 minutes left to make it closer. But yeah, they had never had a chance to cover it. Bills just, they seem to put up 3 or 4 of these stinkers a year. So if you're gonna back them and give some points, you're just gonna have to live with these occasionally. And no regrets on my end is what it is. Shout out to Kody for kind of sniffing that one out.
Yep, I was actually thinking about this while watching that game on Sunday morning, just because there's been a lot of talk about potentially the Jaguars moving to London or anything like that. They would be a perennial 9-8, 8-9 football team because anybody who had to travel to them, they have the best home field advantage if you include the jet lag. And anytime they had to travel to a U.S. game for an away game, they would have terrible jet lag. So I think that kind of played out a little bit on Sunday. Like, I don't think it's logistically possible for there to be a team that far away. It'll be a little bit different this week when we have, both teams leave at the same time. Well, maybe not the same time, but Tennessee and Baltimore, neither of them being over there for a full week. But I'm sure there will be more games like this in the future. So I'm curious to see if a trend kind of starts where, like, if Jacksonville plays 2 games over there every year, the second game that they're there, is it almost like an automatic W because they're so refreshed compared to the team that they're playing? So,
or at least a cover. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. My first game here, I took New Orleans +1 at New England. This was a pretty easy W. I was very worried about this one, both during the recording and basically right up into game time. I was worried that Bill Belichick was 10 times the coach that Dennis Allen is. I think before this game, statistically, Dennis Allen was like worst or second worst head coach in NFL history when you looked at his combined record. So I didn't feel too good about it, but as soon as the game got started, the Patriots offense was completely inept, and it felt like this bet was cashed in the second quarter. So not really a bunch of analysis in this game since it was such a big blowout, but I think it's just more – I would just bet New England unders, and if they're playing any something of a good team, I would just take the other team right now. I don't think Bill Belichick's coaching advantage can help save this offense.
Yeah, it's really bad for New England right now. Combined 72-3 in their past 2 games they have lost. At home against New Orleans should have been not necessarily a get-right game because New Orleans has a great defense, but certainly a winnable game against a team that has looked, somewhat lackluster this year on offense for sure. And just, if you're going to be a playoff caliber team, you need to win these games at home. And they not only did not win it, they got absolutely smoked. I will transition that to my second bet, which did cash as well. Took the under in the same game, 39.5. This one should have been super easy. Mac Jones really made me sweat it out. Tried to hand the over to the New Orleans Saints on their own. He had a defensive touchdown against with a pick 6. He gave them multiple short fields on turnovers. But alas, the Patriots offense was not able to score even a single point. So it was just enough at 34-0 to stay under the total. I was definitely sweating it all the way till the end. I was waiting for that garbage time touchdown to just backdoor me and really crap on my day. But thankfully, New England they ended up just kind of running the clock out at the end, which was good to see.
Yep, all it would have taken was the one last-second touchdown from New England to lose the game 34-7 for this game for the over to hit.
I was waiting for it the whole time, baby. I saw it coming, but it. Yeah, thankfully they got the ball back with like 6 minutes left and just ran it 3 straight times right up the middle. I was like, oh, thank God, they're rolling over right now. Thankfully.
Absolutely, nope. I like that one quite a bit. All right, my second one. I feel the exact opposite of the way that I felt about my first bet. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh +4.5. I felt like this was a terrible bet for 80 to 85% of the game. Pittsburgh's offense was terrible. They looked as bad as New England's offense did. The Ravens wide receivers had 6 to 7 drops on Sunday. If they catch even probably half of those, Pittsburgh doesn't even really have a chance to cover. Obviously, the terrible interception by Lamar Jackson late in the game in the end zone. Just all kinds of stuff that just you feel lucky winning this one. But if you just look at the numbers and look at the current historical trend, it would tell you to bet it every single time. So I would say this one I feel a little bit lucky about just with the way the game was going for the majority of it. But when it's Baltimore-Pittsburgh right now, you just take the underdog in the points and Just let the game play out. It's always going to come down to one of those last couple of possessions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to disagree with you. I think this is exactly how we kind of thought this bet was going to play out. I mean, we didn't say Baltimore was going to dominate, on paper and, with your eyes the whole game. But, this is just kind of the way these Baltimore-Pittsburgh games always play out. Doesn't matter if one team is clearly superior at moving the ball up and down the field or playing defense. There's going to be a mistake one way or another that turns things. It happens every single time, and it certainly happened in this one. Definitely the first 15 minutes, I thought you might get blown out of this one, but then just a couple of mistakes happened, really shifted the game. Lamar played a great game in this one. If you have him in fantasy, I feel for you. I was actually at a bar with my dad, and he had Lamar Jackson in this one. We were just throwing our hands up because he should have had 3 or 4 touchdowns that were all dropped by his receivers, like Kody said. So. These Pittsburgh-Baltimore matchups just always have a way of being really, really close. If you're getting 4.5 points on the home side, you should take it every time with these two teams.
Absolutely.
My third best bet, I went against my team, which is never good juju, but when they're this bad, it's just too easy. New York Jets plus 2.5 at Denver. That went back and forth a little bit in the first half. I was kind of nervous. Our offense was actually showing some juice, especially the new running back, Jaleel McLaughlin. Had a few nice plays early on, but once Breece Hall took over, this game was fairly in hand for the Jets for most of the second half. He had over 170 yards. I told you to take them to win, and they did by 10 at the end of the day. It was a little bit closer than that, I'd say, but still, the line just never made sense getting points in this game, being the clearly superior team in my mind. So pretty easy cover and win overall there. My easiest one of the day, not much sweating going on at the end there.
Yeah, there's not too much to say. We'll get into Denver here in a little bit because I want to mention them just a little bit in our preview for next week's bets. So I'll hold what I have to say about them. And then, the Jets, the offense really didn't look that good, but when you can turn it around and give it to Breece Hall on not on a snap count, it does not matter. Exactly. All right, my last bet of the week, my only losing bet, Dallas at San Francisco, under 45. Got to take that loss there. Two of my 3 losses, both 49ers unders, so maybe just stop betting on that. But I really feel like the process was sound. The Cowboys just couldn't get anything going against the 49ers defense, kind of what I expected. And on the other side of it, the 49ers just kept scoring touchdowns. If we get, 2 of those touchdowns get held to field goals, the unders hit, there's some other possibilities in there, a takeaway or something like that just kind of keeps the game more in balance. But Dallas was just giving up touchdowns left and right. Not really much else to say about that. Nick, I would say you've been not a doubter, but just a non-believer in Brock Purdy. Did you watch this game, and does it make you feel any different about Brock Purdy?
He looked really, really good in this one. Yeah, I don't really have much to say other than that. He played a really good game. There was actually a lot of really good throws down the field. I still think there is a lot of just great scheming going on here in the San Francisco offense, and I'm not ready to say he is a top 10 quarterback or, there are some books making him a top 5 MVP candidate. Give me a damn break. He wouldn't even be the top 2 of the MVPs on his own team, but he did look really, really good last night. I don't have much to say. He was fantastic. There was a lot of tight window throws he made, and I got to give him full credit. So he came out and played his best game that I've seen him play, to my eyes, in the NFL so far. The Cowboy. Dak Prescott really ruined you because you were looking real good up until about the 5-minute mark of the third quarter. And then Dak proceeded to throw 3 interceptions on about 5 or 6 passes. The Niners scored touchdowns on every single one of them, I believe, and pushed this thing over. But otherwise you probably would have been fine. I think this was a bit of a bad beat for you, honestly. So. When one side scores 10 in an over-under of 45, you'd expect to cover that 95% of the time, but not in this one, unfortunately.
Yep, exactly.
I'll transition that to my long shot bet because it never had a shot. I had the Cowboys winning, but the first leg was already ruined. It was the Rams winning. I think the Rams actually played a really good game. And at the start, I watched the first half, couldn't see the second half on my way home, but their offense just completely fell off the wagon. I mean, they were moving the ball well on the Eagles in the first. Didn't see what happened, but they only had, I think, a little under 100 total yards in the second half. So the Eagles defense really turned it on, and then obviously the Cowboys just got absolutely smoked. I will say, I think I'm gonna keep this long shot bet segment in here, but if we are being good smart bettors, there's a reason Vegas is giving you plus odds on parlays. Don't take them regularly. If you are a casual bettor, you want to do a little sprinkle and have a chance to win some decent change. I get it, but there is a reason that parlays they're always going to make money for the books, even though they're giving you odds. So just know that going into these, we will continue to give them. But if it was me, I would go ahead and just keep placing the single bets on the on our best bets every week, because those are gonna end up cashing better for you. For example, I don't bet money on my long shot bet usually unless I just absolutely love it for some reason, but I'll put a little bit of ched on each one of my best bets because I actually feel strongly about them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe we find a way to switch it up from being a long. I don't really necessarily know, but I agree with you because it is.
And come up with something.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Because I agree. I mean, I have put a very small wager on all of mine, just so that way I can, if anyone ever asks, do I actually bet these, I could just say yes. But like, if my unit size is, let's just break it down to easy numbers, is $10 on a normal straight bet, then you should put no more than $1 on a parlay. It should be no more than 10% of what you on a straight bet. Just that's the way I guess smart bettors would say to do it. But I'm right there with you. Yeah, if don't look at us at our long shot bets and just say that we can't hit anything. There's a reason why the books will give you plus 750 odds on just two guys to score a touchdown.
I will say, yeah, I didn't mean it to come off that way. I just kind of, that's just kind of my philosophy when I'm going into this. I like giving these bets because they're fun, but at the end of the day, I don't think they are smart money. Like, I do believe a lot of our best bets are smart money. Clearly,
yeah,
22.
I'm right there with you. This year. I'm actually swearing off parlays in general, so I need to. There's honestly, if you want to make yourself a profitable bettor, just never bet a parlay, because the 1 out of 10 you hit, you're still losing multiple units on, because you're still losing the other 9. So it's not really worth it. But if you hit a couple, it makes you feel good. It is what it is. My long shot was a Sam Laporta touchdown and a Tank Dell touchdown parlayed together. Yeah, it is definitely a bad beat. It definitely went the way that I thought. Nico Collins did not have the week that he did have the week I was expecting with AJ Terrell on him. Unfortunately, Dalton Schultz was the one who ended up in the end zone for Houston. So it's a rough loss, especially with Sam Laporta just doubling up. So it was almost like he wanted to give one to Tank Dell for me, just for the long shot bet to hit. But it is what it is. I kind of like just maybe I'll just keep it consistent and just do a 2-leg anytime TD parlay. Those consistently get right around +5, +600, and I can at least make an argument for why I think it can happen. So,
and Dell left in the second quarter. This one with a concussion. So that was why I was saying it was a bad beat. I mean,
did he? Oh wow,
yeah, he was having a great game up until then. Already had 3 catches for 57 yards on 4 targets. I think it was playing out largely the way you kind of envisioned it. With
I didn't know it was that early.
Being covered up by Terrell, and Dell would have had a pretty good chance, I'd imagine, of scoring that touchdown later on, because he was already finding success against that Atlanta secondary. But yeah, that was a good, the bones were there, but sometimes, these are real human beings. It just doesn't work out.
Well, damn, I love long shot bets then. I mean, I was right there, baby.
Hey, that's like my J.K. Dobbins one in week 1, all right? Sometimes it just don't work out.
Exactly.
Let's do an early look at the week 6 lines. These aren't necessarily going to be our best bets this week, but I think these are the ones that are catching our eye early on here. There will be movement in between now and Friday when we actually record, but again, I think these are the ones that, on first glance, I and Kody are interested in to begin with. Starting with the London game, Baltimore at Tennessee. I like the under of 39.5. We have seen these teams look really sluggish after traveling. Both of these teams have been pretty consistently hitting their unders, or at least close to it, especially on the Tennessee side. And again, I think the sluggish nature of the jet lag you get from going to London will play into this one as well. The line has already moved from 40 to 39.5. For it to move that quickly, that like right after being put out, tells you that anybody who has a stake is putting the money on the under immediately. So this is one that I might recommend doing now, because by the time we get to Friday, it could be 38.5 and 38 or something like that, and then we'll probably be off of it at that point. But I think it's worth a sprinkle as of now, and then we'll once we get to Friday, we'll see where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Lunder. You got to go with the Lunder when they play over there.
Nice.
So,
did you come up with that?
Absolutely not. Totally ripped off another very, very, very popular podcast. But
I gave you a chance.
That's okay.
You could have just told me it was yours. Oh,
that's okay.
I like that.
I'm actually going to stay in the same side of the world as you, because I really like the Tennessee number that you can get right now. Tennessee +4. Again, this is a game. This is the game in London. These games are typically lower scoring, so a Tennessee team that I could see winning this game outright, getting up to or getting 4 points right now, just seems like a lot to me. So definitely one that I'm keeping in mind. Definitely one that I want to. When I see a line like this that kind of that is a good amount off of where I would have expected it to be, I like to see. I like to listen to other professional bettors and see what they think, why this line is hung this high. Because it's one of those just, are they trying to bait me into taking this? Because it just seems very, very juicy right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I probably need to do some more research to formally recommend it, but I think Tennessee might have the coaching advantage at this point. John Harbaugh has made some really questionable decisions the past few weeks. Last week, the decision to not kick the field goal at the end of the first half. They were on about the 25-yard line. It was a 4th and 2 with 20 seconds left and 1 timeout. They went for it. I guess Harbaugh basically said that they were trying to draw them off sides, and some of the line thought they had drawn them off sides, so they just snapped it. But still, I mean, a giant miscommunication in a situation where you can't have it. There's been a few instances such as that have just been concerning. And Vrabel's a great coach. I think I could easily see this being a 2017 game, and you'd get the cover anyway, even if it goes the other way. My next line that I'm looking at right now is Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago getting 3 points at home. I will take the Bears in this one. Vikings will almost certainly not have Jefferson. That's the huge reason I'm recommending this now, because I would almost guarantee you by the time we get to Friday, Jefferson will be ruled out, and this line will be way closer to 1 or maybe even a pick 'em, because he is one of those rare wide receivers that will move a line multiple points, which you don't see very often, but definitely would happen in this game. I think I would be interested in the over 46.5 as well. I think we could see that come down a bit if Jefferson isn't active. He could move this a half point or 1 point down, but I still think both these defenses are just not good. And especially the Chicago offenses look pretty good. I think Cousins still has enough weapons to get to 20 or 24 points against a bad Bears defense. So might pivot to the over, but right now Bears +3. Go ahead and take them. These Vikings team is not good enough to blow anybody out. Even with Jefferson, if he comes out and plays hobbled, I'd still be fine with Bears +3.
Yeah. I was all over Bears +3 as well. So I'm right there with you. And then also, I don't know where I got this number when I was filling in my template, but yeah, 46.5 for that over under. I would take that one very easily as well. So I like both of those lines. I'm going to fast forward a little bit since we are, and actually as a heads up, we're going to be moving from 3 to 5 best bets each per week, since we are focusing on the betting, just give you guys more content that way. I think we should be able to include Thursday night football games in those as well, since we're just focusing on that. One of them from this Thursday, Denver +10.5 at Kansas City. I need to do some research on the previous Denver KC matchups. For me, for some reason in my mind, I always think that they're at least respectably close. I don't really remember KC blowing out Denver like they've blown out Las Vegas over the past couple of years. So to get 10.5, and right now you're betting it with the potential of no Travis Kelce, which we saw what that looked like in week 1. I would just eat up Denver +10.5 right now. I mean, As again, it's another one. It's just like, why is Vegas wanting me? Why are they giving me the hook on top of the 10 as well? It's a very juicy line for me. I don't expect this game to be a blowout. I expect it to be respectfully close. So Denver plus 10.5 has piqued my interest.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to follow you on this one. I may be just a salty Denver fan, but I'd be way more interested in taking KC and giving the points. This Denver team is just horrible. I mean, just horrible. They can't stop anybody from doing anything, especially Patrick Mahomes. They showed okay on the passing defense last week, but that was because Breece Hall ran for 170 plus yards. So I see the 10.5. I was surprised it wasn't more, to be honest with you. I mean, again, I am probably a salty Denver fan, but I just think they are going to get smoked. I don't care if Kelsey's there or not. Noah Gray is perfectly capable of catching a wide open touchdown against the secondary. I think in my opinion, if you want to go with the Denver side, I'd take the under here because I just don't see Denver's not going to put up more than 24 points. So if you think they're going to compete in this one, I'd probably just go that way because the over under is at 49 right now. If they can hold, they just sometimes divisional games are closer than we think. If they can hold the Chiefs offense to 24 or so points, then they could get to the under that way. But in my opinion, I'd be staying away from betting on this Denver team. They burned me in the. I may be also salty because I put them in my best bets column 2 weeks ago when they lost by 50. But anyway, it's not good right now.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to do some research and just try and find some statistics that make me feel good about that one. But you may have just your reaction may have just completely taken me off of it. I don't blame you because it's definitely one of those with the way Denver's the way Denver's trending right now. Like there's a chance KC just wins it by 2 touchdowns, and it's never really a game. It's just thinking back. I mean, people kind of thought the same thing last year. I feel like both games were, again, respectfully close. So it's just in a divisional game to get over 10. And I guess maybe, I don't know why I have these Denver blinders on, but it's just hard for me to look at Denver and think of them as a bottom 2 or 3 team in the NFL. Like I don't know why it is, but
we almost never bottom out.
I
think the only top 5 pick we've had in the past 25 years was Von Miller. I mean, you're right. It's like the Vikings and the Broncos are kind of in a similar situation right now. Both of those franchises are historically very successful. Almost never ever bottom out, but looks like both of them have a chance to do that this year. And honestly, for both teams, it might be best case scenario because you are doing it in a loaded quarterback class, and both of them are going to need a quarterback moving forward. So I think it might be for the best long term, but there are going to be some lumps to be taken for both of them in the meantime. Next one I'm looking at here is Seattle plus 2.5 at Cincinnati. I'm really curious to see what this line would have been if the Bengals had struggled in Arizona, even if they'd won. If the offense had still struggled, I feel like I'm hard pressed to believe that they would have even been giving points to Seattle. I feel like if you would have given this line out before this Arizona game, it would have been Seattle by 2 or 3. So for it to move this much based on a performance against the Arizona Cardinals, who many people expected to be the worst team in the league coming into the year, is just surprising because Seattle didn't do anything. They were on a bye. They have a full week to prep for Cincinnati. I'm not convinced that they are all the way back. Joe Burrow, I was listening to a podcast this morning that was brought up an interesting point, basically that Joe Burrow is not taking any snaps out of the under center. He's taking every snap out of the shotgun, which tells you that his calf is almost certainly not 100% because he is not comfortable, taking a 5-6 step drop and driving off of his leg to throw the ball. So until I see that, I don't know. It's going to limit this offense. And we just saw Seattle. I know it was the Giants, and their offensive line is laughably bad, but still 10 sacks is 10 sacks. I think they'll be able to get after the Bengals, and I think they're just the better team right now. So I'd be very comfortable taking the points, and I'd probably just take them to win, honestly.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I really didn't have a beat on this game. I feel like the line kind of threw me off a little bit as well. Also, there was a sleeper report that came out Sunday morning that said basically Joe Burrow's not really even that close to being fully healthy, and he's still multiple weeks out from getting there. So I don't really know how you
really
beat an uninspired
mid-season playing NFL football. I mean, because it's just one wrong step. he tweaks it a little bit, and he's got, he's going to add 2 weeks to his timeline. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for the Bengals to get him all the way back to 100% midseason while he's playing. I guess if they just get lucky and he keeps going into games and not tweaking it over and over and over, he'll eventually get there. But it's very tough to go out and play an NFL game and not injure it's hard not to get injured in an NFL game when you're healthy, let alone having a bad leg. So I like the Seahawks team. I think they're a really solid squad. They had the blip in week 1, but they were expected to be a really good team coming in, and this will be a true test for the Bengals to see if they're actually back.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to go ahead and stay at the same game because one of the I actually had a little bit of a take on the total over under 46.5. I thought the over under was going to be closer to probably 48 plus, or I'm sorry, 48 plus. So I see a couple points of value. Both, Cincinnati's secondary and Seattle's secondary have been, I get, slightly worse than I was expecting coming into the season. We'll see what Seattle looks like coming off a week of rest, but with the offensive talent in this game, I could see it getting to 27-24 pretty quickly. Obviously, we'll see how the Seattle secondary with their injuries, how they're doing with. I don't know. You kind of talked me off a little bit with your Joe Burrow take, because if Seattle's pass rush looks like they did against New York, Joe Burrow is not going to be able to go anywhere in that game. So, yeah, I will, again, and these are just early lines that when I took a look at what I thought lines were going to be versus what they were. These are definitely ones that I just had a little bit of a different opinion on, but we'll see. We'll look at some stats. We'll see what the data says, but the over still has my interest. But like you said, there's a chance for Seattle's, front four, front seven to just dominate this game and make Joe Burrow, basically just struggle. And I would also like to say that Jamar Chase was like 70 to 80% of Joe Burrow's volume over this game. I mean, it was basically just wherever Jamar Chase was, he was going with the football. So that also just doesn't really make me feel too good about the Cincinnati offense as a whole getting going, because it was really just one guy, one connection.
I mean, not the worst idea to throw it to him every time, but yeah, I won't belabor that point. I just kind of made it myself. So I thought 46.5 was a pretty good line. I was willing to be convinced one way or another, but I just in my head could see Cincinnati struggling again on offense. If they only get to 14 or 17 points, that is a lot of heavy lifting that Seattle has to do against, not a terrific defense in the Bengals, but still a pretty solid unit. They've been, pretty run of the mill, maybe slightly above average on the road. West Coast team traveling east. I'm not going to, count on them scoring 30 points, even though I like their offense in this one. We'll just get later in the week and see where that line ends up.
Yep.
Last one I want to throw out there before we head. Actually, Kody has one more as well, but Carolina at Miami. Miami is favored by 13.5 points. I will almost never, ever, ever, ever consider double-digit favorites on the line in the NFL. But if this stays under 2 touchdowns, I'm probably in. They won by 15 against the Giants last week, and they should have won by 30. Tua threw a pick 6 on the 5-yard line. They let their foot off the gas really hard at the end of this game, obviously because they didn't really need the points, and they still cover. So this is maybe even a worse team in the Panthers, at least as bad, and they're still under 2 touchdowns. I would expect this line to move towards Miami. This offense is absolutely incredible. We just saw the Panthers get shredded by the Lions, who, as good as they are not as good as this Miami unit. So, until this goes over 2 scores or 2 touchdowns, I will be comfortable taking it. This is just a maybe historically good offense against a team that is going to finish probably in the bottom 5 of the NFL. I think you can feel pretty comfortable about this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought
it would be higher. I thought this would be a 17-point game. I really did.
Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect. I definitely thought it could have been a lot higher. I agree with you on. I don't really love recommending almost 2 touchdown favorites, but if you're getting it for under 2 touchdowns, I don't like. That's the time to bet it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if you listen to other betting podcasts, they're always going to recommend you taking the points when they're giving you more than 10, but this Miami team is just something different.
I do not see a path for this Panthers team to compete in this game. I do not see a path beyond, Tua just imploding and giving the Panthers a defensive touchdown or two. Because this is this is the worst run defense in the NFL going up against the best rush offense in the NFL. They have shredded every team they have played on the ground, and now they get the worst run defense in the league. I just don't see a path to the Panthers putting up a competitive effort here.
Yeah, and if I would have told you, the Lions line was 13.5 last week, you would have probably been like, but Carolina just stinks, man. They are just not a good football team, and
they got that late touchdown, that was a garbage time touchdown that they got and still lost by 18 in that game. So yeah,
exactly.
I don't see it. I think Miami's going to absolutely destroy them, and I'd be okay at 13.5. Once it gets to 14.5, I'm probably out though, because that's kind of where you just get into backdoor cover territory. Miami could win 42-28 with 2 touchdowns at the end by Carolina, and you could be a little frustrated there. So that's probably where I'd be off of it. But 13.5, I'll take it.
100%. My last one I'm going to talk about here before we get out is New Orleans at Houston. Houston getting 2.5 at home. I just really like this Houston team. Both their offense and defense have been really overperforming based on what we thought in the preseason. So getting points at home against a struggling offense sounds great to me. I expect this game to be relatively low scoring. The Saints do not give up a lot of points, and the Texans defense has been playing really good. So I'm going to take the home dog when I think that that's going to be the formula for the game. And this may be a little bit of arrogance on my part, but I'd rather trust my money betting on CJ Stroud than Derek Carr right now. And CJ Stroud is a whole 5 games into his NFL career. So I don't know if you watched very much of the Atlanta-Houston game. Obviously did not realize Tank Dell went out so early, but that what should have been a game-winning drive by CJ Stroud was extremely impressive. And I think you can feel pretty comfortable not only betting money on him, but on the D'Amico Ryans defense as well, to be able to keep his team at least relatively in it against the majority of middling teams in the NFL. If they played the Bills, I expect the Bills to blow them out still. But if they're getting these Saints teams, they're getting the Falcons, teams like that, I'm gonna take Houston anytime I can get the points right now.
Yeah, I think the league is the fantasy community more so, but they've been slow to come around on this Houston team a little bit, especially the defense. I feel like no one really, the first couple games has just been like, oh, well, it's Houston. You can play your guys against Houston, but they might actually just be pretty good. They've taken a lot of high draft capital players on that side of the ball. D'Amico Ryans, as you mentioned, is a defensive-oriented head coach. He's a really good coach, at least to this point, from my eyes. And I think this Houston team is definitely a sleeper to be maybe sneaking into the back end of the playoff conversation. I think Vegas or the Sharps agree with you, because the line I'm looking at right now is Houston plus 1.5, so it's already on the move. Other line I like in this game, yeah, exactly. The other line I like in this game is the under. 41.5. The Saints, we just cashed their under last week. Their totals so far in their 5 games have been 31, 37, 35, 35, and 34. And I just mentioned that the Houston defense is probably better than most people expect as well. So this could easily be a 17-14, 21-17 type of game. As long as it stays above 40, I will heavily consider that in my best bets as well.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. The Saints defense is really, really good. But all right, we're going to keep this right at 45 minutes here for you guys. We are hoping switching to betting will shorten up the episodes a little bit, so not too bad for the first one. Nick, we will talk on Thursday. Obviously, make sure you tune into the Thursday podcast. Now that we're just focusing on betting, Thursday night football games are 100%, in the locks as well. 5 locks coming for you guys from now on as well, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. But Nick, let's get out of here. Let's get some preparation ready for Thursday night football. Let's make some money this week.